everybody.
Good morning.
That was a party. My name is Durling. I'm the president of the Nevada chapter of the American Planning Association, and on behalf of the chapter, we want to welcome you to beautiful Boulder City this fine October morning. On behalf of the chapter, we appreciate you coming out. We have an exciting conference in store for you, several mobile tours today. If you are taking a mobile tour, Julie Hunter is in the back heading those up, and I think they're all meeting at the door here. Please take advantage of everything that we have to offer in this conference. This is a great learning experience, as well as just a great time to network with our fellow planners and those engaged in planning in our Nevada communities. And please take advantage of every moment. I know Fred has a couple of opening words that he would like to share. Fred Steinmann, Chapter Secretary.
Thank you, Andy. My name is Fred Steinmann. I'm an assistant research professor with the University of Nevada, Reno in the College of Business, and I also currently serve as the chapter secretary. And I'm here today representing the University of Nevada and the College of Business. This is part of our outreach and extension mission as a land-grant university in the state of Nevada. Very much so, the chapter is very interested in reaching out to the state's youth. As a former president of the University of Nevada once said, the wealth of the state of Nevada is not in its hills and mines, but in the minds of its young people. And the College of Business at the University of Nevada is very happy to help sponsor this conference and to partner with the chapter as we continue our mission of extension and outreach to the citizens of the state of Nevada and bring our youth population into the state as well. We have the pleasure this conference to partner with Nevada State College, our sister school, as part of the Nevada system of higher education, where on Tuesday night we'll be hosting the chapter's, I believe, first career fair with various organizations and firms that have members in the chapter participating from 5 to 7 o'clock on Tuesday night to really give students at Nevada State College the opportunity to come into the chapter and be part of the larger planning community. We also are partnering with this conference with the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and the Lee Business School. And although the competition and the rivalry between the University of Nevada, Reno and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas is fierce on the football field, when it comes to the business of educating Nevada's youth, we work in a very tight and close collaborative nature. Currently, the College of Business at the University of Nevada, Reno has a total of about 3,000 students enrolled. The Lee Business School, UNLV, has 4,000 students enrolled. Together, that's 7,000 students that the two colleges are educating to be the future business leaders of the state of Nevada. And looking at the demand for that type of professional with a high degree of training and ready to take over and lead, we see that we could double those enrollment numbers and still not satisfy the demand. And that is why the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, the University of Nevada, Reno, in partnership with our other NG institutions like Nevada State College, are very happy to work with all of you over the next 3 days to really plot a future as we attempt to rejuvenate Nevada for planning, education, and public administration and overall leadership development for the future of Nevada's economy. Again, on behalf of the University of Nevada, Reno and the College of Business, it is certainly my pleasure to welcome all of you to the 2016 Nevada chapter of the American Planning Association's annual conference. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Just want to take a few moments to thank all of our sponsors. They are rolling through here on the screen, and without their financial contributions, it would make it very difficult to make this chapter possible and make it very affordable for our members. That's always been a goal of the chapter leadership. Just some housekeeping. Bathrooms are to your right, my left, towards the entrance. As Fred mentioned, tomorrow will be, and the next 2 days will be at the Nevada State College. Wi-Fi password is on the board in the back, and we have lots of food, so please help yourselves. Boulder City is just a beautiful little town here, a gem in southern Nevada, and I have fond memories from my childhood growing up in Las Vegas. My parents would always, it was one of their favorite events to come to the Boulder City Art Fair. And is it still going? It is. So, it's been more than 20 years since I've been to Boulder City, but it's wonderful to see how it's grown, and the beautification efforts on Main Street driving in were really special. So as a kid, it was always it was kind of a road trip growing up in Northwest Las Vegas to drive all the way across town in those days to Boulder City. So, thank you to the City of Boulder City for hosting us today, and it is my pleasure to introduce now Mayor Rodney Woodbury from the City of Boulder City, if you'd like to say a couple words.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here, and it is our sincere pleasure to host this event for today, at least. I know you're elsewhere in the coming days, but we welcome you to Boulder City, and thank you for allowing us to host this event. We have a lot of events like this, and as was just mentioned, we had our Art in the Park event 2 weeks ago, and we have a lot of fall festivals. Boulder City is a quaint little town. I know that your association is a lot about urban planning, and we're more rural, I think, but Nevada in general is fairly rural. But I wasn't given a topic to talk on today. I'll just spend a few minutes, though, if you'll allow me the privilege, just to give you a little bit of background about Boulder City and our beginnings, and just kind of some things that are going on today, and some planning challenges that we have. Boulder City, for those of you that don't know, was planned originally by the federal government to house workers that were building Hoover Dam. And so it kind of grew up as a tent city initially, but then there was some real planning that went on. If you have the opportunity today, either when you're at the Forge at the reception tonight, you can use your imagination a little bit to see that Boulder City was originally at least modeled after Washington, D.C. in terms of the layout. So we've got this big mall area that if you step out to the park right by the Forge where you'll be tonight, and you look down California Street, you can imagine it's kind of a wide street. You'll see Boulder City High School at the other end. And if you turn around and look uphill, you'll see Government Park. And there's some trees and some other parking structures that have kind of gotten in the way of that. It hasn't really panned out that way, but if you use your imagination, you can see that it was originally laid out similar to Washington, D.C. with a big long mall area, and it's actually kind of nice to see that, and to see how it's changed over time. So fast forward, 75 years or so, well, not even that long. Our city became a city in 1960. After the federal government moved out and people actually moved here. And then more recently, in the 70s and 80s, we implemented some slow growth ordinances that have kind of made it so that we haven't had a lot of planning challenges, at least not in the traditional sense. But after the turn of the century, in the early 2000s, we had already acquired about 200 square miles of land. So we are the biggest geographic city, I believe, in Nevada. But we're just a small little community with only 16,000 people. And when I first moved here in 1978, I don't think it was a lot different than that. We were maybe a little bit north of 10,000, but it hasn't grown a lot over these past almost 40 years since I've been here. After the turn of the century, we decided that it would be wise for us to invite solar companies in here. And so if you look down into the valley, as you're going to Las Vegas, you'll see the solar arrays that are down there, and that's been a boon to our community. We leased that land to them, and they pay us rent, and that helped us get through the economic downturn better, I think, than a lot of communities were able to, because we had that income. More recently, We have I-11 coming in, what we initially called the Boulder City Bypass, but so that stretches right now from just west of the dam, down at the Hoover Dam Lodge, the old Gold Strike Hotel. It circumvents the city, and then it hits right at Railroad Pass. And eventually they're talking in Arizona right now about extending that, down through Arizona, eventually to Mexico, and then they're talking here about what the route's going to be through Las Vegas and then up north. And so ultimately that would be the Canamex highway that would carry a lot of truck traffic and freight and things like that. So that's coming, and that's about halfway through the building process, and it's presented challenges for us in terms of how we, are we going to lose business? Are we, how are we going to handle that to make sure that we're still a thriving community and not the next Radiator Springs? And so, you kind of laugh at that, but you saw that happen with Route 66 and all those towns, and people are legitimately concerned about that. So Boulder City is changing somewhat. I don't think you'll ever see us being this huge metropolis, especially as long as we've got all those solar leases taking up the land down there. But some things that we're doing right now to plan for I-11 and just in conjunction with whether do we grow a little bit now or do we stay the same size. Here's some things we're doing. We're going through a land management plan process right now, which we do every year, where people get to suggest different types of uses of our various land, and then that's just tentative as to how they might be used in the future. We just sent our golf course lots in 2010, and then again in 2014, the voters approved, which they have to do because of our slow growth ordinances, the sale of land around the golf course, the new golf course, the Boulder Creek Golf Course. And so that just went out for bid just last week, or it was approved to go out to bid just last week. We're doing a master planning for a light industrial area that's going to be at the for what we call the Four Corners interchange, just out by Railroad Pass. And we've had a lot of suitors, requesting to come in and build there. And we're not really prepared for that, but we're trying to get prepared for it. So, things like data centers or, certainly truck stops, these bio-growth companies and Walmart distribution centers or whatever it is. That's what we just had a community meeting last week, a town hall meeting, where people get to give input and decide, well, what do they want to see out there and what don't they want to see out there. So we're starting to experience that growth and the growth pains that go along with that. And how do you plan for that? We also have certain developers that want to take advantage of I-11, and there's county land that's right along the mountains out by Railroad Pass, and they've talked about annexing into Henderson, and they want to build residential lots out there. And so that's a concern for us because we don't, that's far away from our current Boulder City proper. And how do we plan for that? And do we really want them out there when we have to service them with first responders, and maybe they use our schools, but we don't get their tax dollars? So how do we deal with that and invite them maybe into Boulder City and grow a little bit instead of having them grow out there and being a little bit of a challenge for us? We have a complete streets project going on. You may have noticed coming into town that you kind of hit the stoplight at Buchanan and it gets really nice. You have the archway there and lots of nice landscaping in the medians and things like that. That's a project we did a few years ago. And then the rest of the route on out towards Railroad Pass feels like they're kind of the forgotten stepchild. And so we're working with the RTC, the Regional Transportation Commission down here is funding some initial design work there, and that's in the process of happening too. It's to try to bring that up to speed with what we've got in our historic area. And so anyway, I won't belabor the point on all these things, but we have our challenges here, and they may be more rural than urban, but they're growth pains and they're challenges for us. And so I know that's what you guys do for a living, and what you try to make happen in the right way, in a way that's sustainable, and so I'm interested to hear how this goes, and I would certainly want to welcome you here. I hope you find Boulder City a nice place to stay, even if for one day. It's just a couple of blocks away. Our Old Town area, the restaurants, and we have a historic Boulder Dam Hotel that you should meander by and visit. And hope you just find it a nice place to visit for you one day here. So thank you for coming again, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. The mayor mentioned the rich history of Boulder City and its founding, and what is unique for the art of planning is that this really is the birthplace of planning in Nevada. Sacramento Moore, who's the namesake for our planning awards, was the original planner for Boulder City and designed it in such a way to mimic Washington, D.C., as the mayor mentioned. Before I get to introducing our opening plenary speaker, I do want to recognize a special guest that we have. It's really an honor to have a representative from the National APA organization. We oftentimes, and I'm not sure that they're overly public when they come, but we do have a lot of representation from our Region 6 representatives, both from the APA and AICP. But it's a special treat to have incoming President Cynthia Bowen with us. She'll be spending almost the entire conference with us, speaking today and then again on Wednesday for our keynote. So please join me in welcoming Cynthia Bowen. Thank you for being here. Now I'd like to introduce our opening plenary speaker. Jeanette Rose Davis is the Bureau of Reclamation's Lower Colorado Regional Public Affairs Officer. Her office manages all local, regional, national, and international media inquiries and requests for information and congressional inquiries on reclamation and the region's activities. The status of the Lower Colorado River and publicity for Hoover Dam. Rose's responsibilities also include spokesperson for media, speaking engagements, and community outreach, and preparation of communication materials such as speeches, talking points, and briefing papers. She is also involved in the collaboration efforts with the International Boundary and Water Commission, an agency of the State Department, on U.S.-Mexico water issues, and with major water entitlement holders in Nevada, Arizona, and California. Rose worked for 21 years with the U.S. Forest Service in public affairs, primarily in wildland fire communication, before coming to the Bureau of Reclamation in 2010. Her professional nickname, Rose, came from 10 years as a radio broadcaster in Flagstaff, Arizona in the 1980s. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in General Studies and a Master's in Public Administration. So please join me in welcoming Rose Davis.
For farming and community and growth in the West. So reclamation that's what it means, is we were built to, or organized in our Organic Act to reclaim the West. I want to also acknowledge the mayor and the community of Boulder City as excellent partners. We do have a lot of pride in the history of Boulder City, and we work very closely with the city as our offices are in the historic viewshed. And within the historic viewshed of Boulder City, we have still managed to revamp some of the older buildings that existed way back in the 30s and have 1 platinum and 2 gold LEED buildings that we work in. And we couldn't have done it without the city, without the city's historic preservation folks and the states. So when you look at Boulder City, we've maintained that beautiful visuals, but we also have sustainable building practices by Reclamation. We're applying for another gold status building down at Hoover Dam, so that's pretty exciting. So we're very happy to be part of this community. The big building at the top of the hill that the mayor mentioned is the first building built. It was the offices for the 6 companies that built Hoover Dam and also for the reclamation engineers. 6 companies is actually a literal figure. It took 6 companies to merge their resources to pull off such a huge effort as the construction of Hoover Dam, never done before, and 1 company couldn't do it. It actually started with the Boulder Canyon Project Act legislation in 1928. Then they put the plans together and manipulated them a little more, and it was originally going to be constructed in Black Canyon, and then they decided to put it in Boulder Canyon. And so it became the Boulder Canyon Dam, Boulder Canyon Project for a long time. And then they decided they wanted to put it back into Black Canyon. So that's actually where it is. So the name gets pretty confused. You'll hear Boulder Dam a lot. And later, as Herbert Hoover lost his bad reputation for causing the Depression, they renamed it after him and became Hoover Dam. So that's kind of the story between Boulder Dam and Hoover Dam. It employed 5,000 people. The direction to 6 companies was to give preference to the vets, the returning vets from World War I. As the mayor said, the city was started in 1930 or so, and the workers kept arriving, but the dam was accelerated. The process for getting the construction was accelerated so that the city wasn't ready for all the workers. So it started as a tent city until they could get the buildings built. Another surprise, I think, to the 6 companies when they were building Boulder City was they expected all of these men to come out and work on the dam, and the Depression as it was, all these men came out to work on the dam, but they also brought their wives and kids. So this man's company town that was going to be required housing for married couples, education for kids, churches, schools, and so the planning became challenging, and as he said, it had to adapt. One of the interesting things you might find is before even the dam got started, the planning that went into getting ready to do Hoover Dam required an immense amount of pre-work. 22.7 miles of railroad had to be built from a point about 7 miles south of Las Vegas. The railroad was built by the Union Pacific Railroad, and regular service began into Boulder City in 1931. To move men and equipment from the construction site, they also had to build a 24 miles of highway from Las Vegas to Boulder City. This was all before the construction began. Since there wasn't any power coming to the dam, they also had to put together some generators to bring power into Boulder City and to bring power to the construction site. They, in 1930, signed a contract with Southern Sierra Power Company and Nevada California Power Company and had to construct a 222-mile-long transmission line from San Bernardino to a substation in Boulder City, and then another line down to the site. So this was all the planning that went into it before we even poured some concrete. And there were additional roads the construction company had to make to bring in the concrete and to bring in the men and workers from Boulder City. They weren't on the same roads generally as the construction equipment because it wasn't safe. There were 5,000 men, so it was no easy task. It was a company town, and in the 1930s, America didn't have a Civil Rights Act, and so the company town was a white company town. It took an act of the Secretary of the Interior in the 30s to insist that some African Americans were hired. They hired about 40 of them during the 5-year course of the construction of the dam, 40 African American men. They put them on the worst places possible to work on the dam. And finally, Secretary Harold Ickes insisted that they be allowed to stay in Boulder City because they had to commute to Las Vegas every day and back to the slums of Las Vegas where African Americans were living. So about 12 of them or so were allowed to encamp outside the regular housing area of Boulder City. There were also about a dozen Native Americans that were hired. Once that went on, the publicity machine for 6 companies made a big deal of that they were hiring a diverse workforce. So there are some little things that went on behind the scenes. And, you know, it was the culture of the time. It was the culture of our country at the time. So, but there are some things that we're not proud of and that we're working on displays at Hoover Dam because we've been asked about the culture and why there's no diversity indicated in the workers down there. So that's another issue that they had to do with the housing and planning of Boulder City was where we're going to put the people that aren't like us. And they were forced to the contract, the government couldn't force the contractors to hire persons of color or different ethnicity. The law wasn't there. So we just put peer pressure on them and publicity pressure on them until they did it. And then the planners in Boulder City had to figure out where they were going to be able to house them. So anyway, it was quite an interesting amount of detail and planning that had to go in before anything started. The contract was let in 1931. It was about $14 million. The dam was completed in 1935 under budget and ahead of schedule. And it did create the city of Boulder City. It was, the property of Boulder City was withdrawn by the federal government. We call it a reservation, just like forests are withdrawn into the public domain. Bureau of Land Management land is withdrawn, National Wildlife Refuges. So this was operated or owned by the federal government, this community, until it was turned back over to Boulder City and incorporated. So there were some very important differences between Boulder City and our neighbors in Las Vegas down the road. There was no alcohol, there was no gambling, and no prostitution. And when they developed a small law enforcement presence in Boulder City, most of the time it was distillers and moonshiners and folks trying to smuggle in some alcohol. Railroad Pass Casino was the very outskirts of those rules in Boulder City, which is why Railroad Pass thrived. Because if they could take a day pass and get off of the federal reservation, the Boulder City proper, Railroad Pass was the place they could go and do those kinds of things, but not within the confines. And today, gambling is still not allowed in Boulder City. Prostitution is not allowed in Boulder City, but you can get a really good beer downtown. So anyway, our presence has been here for quite a while. We have our challenges in our water delivery. The drought, as you may have known, has been going on for about 16 years. We have very serious issues with water delivery and the future of water delivery. Boulder City was the first, of course, to get water and has a small portion of the electricity that comes from Hoover Dam, but most of Hoover Dam's electricity goes to California. The dam actually was funded by the United States government, but it was completely repaid back to the United States Treasury from the power companies that benefited. And today, Hoover Dam is not paid for by any of our tax dollars, any appropriated dollars. It's all paid for, operation and maintenance, by the power companies. There are a couple of positions, support positions, that are appropriated dollars. But it's interesting that folks know if they go to the visitor center, their tickets, monies, all of that is going to the power companies who support and maintain. I'm getting feedback and I don't know why. Support and maintain Hoover Dam. So anyway, we look forward to continued partnerships with the city. As he said, the planning challenges, we are totally on the city side. Anything we can do. We are a major employer in the city and very proud of that, and are always in contact if we are going to change our campus or change our structures. But again, we're proud to be in the view shed and proud to be a part of keeping Boulder City clean and green with our LEED and gold platinum buildings, and proud of being part of the history of its growth. And just really welcome you all here, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. All right, well, enjoy, and again, as the mayor said, there's some really great places to eat, and the Boulder City Museum is downtown inside the Boulder City, or the Boulder Dam Hotel. So please take some time to look around, and welcome. Thank you.